What is going on, guys? My name is Ravisher, and this is episode 1 of my Getting Better at Halo 4 series, of which I'm going to be posting videos at least once, if not twice a week. The first episode, we're going to go over kits, loadouts, and control settings. So basically, what you should be making your classes to be able to perform as well as possible before going into the game. The next episode, we're actually going to jump right into the game and start covering gameplay advice and tips. So getting right into it. As you guys can see, I have two different loadouts. I have a close quarters combat loadout and I have a big team battle loadout. I think it is absolutely crucial that you have different loadouts for the size of the map you're playing on. That is the most important thing to be able to maximize the amount of kills and the amount of effectiveness you can have on the battlefield. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through the weapons, the grenades, the armor abilities, and the tactical and support upgrades that you can be using, and I'm going to be giving advice as to whether or not you should be using it on a small map or a big map, as it is very important that you switch up your playstyle depending on the size of the map to be most effective. So starting with weapons. The battle rifle is very useful for small and mid maps. It'll throw off your opponents and actually shake their screen and increase the amount of recoil they receive. I would not recommend using the battle rifle on larger maps though, as it is outclassed by the DMR at long ranges. The assault rifle is obviously only useful on very small maps, as is the storm rifle and the suppressor. I feel like all three are interchangeable, and unless you're a very close quarters combat player, I would recommend staying away from them. The DMR is the most versatile out of all the weapons. It can be used on small, medium, or large maps. It is very competitive with the BR at close range, and it exceeds at mid and long range. If you want a weapon that you can use for all your classes, I recommend the DMR. However, if you prefer the BR at close range, as I do, you'll definitely will not be getting dominated by the DMR by any means. However, on big maps, especially in big team battle, definitely want to use the DMR or the light rifle. The light rifle is actually a 4-shot kill while scoped in, 6 shots scoped out. So in terms of the light rifle, I would recommend not using it on close quarters combat maps, and I would recommend using it on long range maps if you want the 4-shot kill while scoped in. I personally have it on one of my big team battle kits. The Covenant Carbine is just not a competitive compared to the battle rifle and the DMR, so I would avoid using it at all costs. Moving on to secondary weapons. On close range maps, I would not recommend using the plasma pistol, as the new combo that a lot of people used in previous Halos is largely ineffective and will often miss. In terms of the plasma pistol, I would recommend using it on big team if you come up against vehicles often, as you can use the pulse charge to stop them in their tracks. The bolt shot is extremely effective at a very close range. However, at mid to long range, it is completely useless. If you like the charge up shotgun effect that it has, it can be very deadly. However, if you prefer the consistency of the Magnum, then I would recommend going with that. Personally, I haven't been able to do that well with the bolt shot, so I use the Magnum, as it is very good at close range if you shoot it really fast, and it can also be usable at mid range. Moving on to grenades. Frag grenade is the most versatile out of all the grenade types. It can be used in both small and big settings. However, in small settings, as it can be banked off corners, walls, and other surfaces, it is very effective against infantry. For that reason, I would recommend using frag grenade on small maps, as the plasma grenade has a poor throw time and detonation distance, and is very difficult to stick people. However, in combination with the plasma pistol, the plasma grenade can be very effective in big team, as you can stop vehicles and then follow up with a sticky grenade. The pulse grenade, as it is often able to be picked up on map and is not that effective at actually getting kills rather than locking down an area, I would recommend against using it in your starting loadout. So, in sum, the frag grenade on small maps, and depending on whether or not you're an anti-vehicle or an anti-personnel on big maps, either choose between the frag grenade for anti-personnel and the plasma grenade for anti-vehicles. Armor abilities. Promethean vision is extremely useful on small maps. You can see through walls and you can get a general understanding of the enemy position and the flow of the game. It is also extremely ineffective on large maps. For that reason, I would highly recommend using Promethean vision for your small map loadout, and I would recommend against using it for your big map loadout, because it really won't be of any help. The thruster pack is actually useful on both small and big maps, as it can be used to get out of sticky situations, and even when you're getting shot across a map with, for example, a sniper rifle, you can quickly thrust to the side and get out of danger. The Hardlight Shield is very ineffective on small maps. However, it is very useful on big maps, and I always use it for my big map kits. You can avoid getting shot from long range by a sniper or somebody cross-map DMRing you by just putting up your Hardlight Shield and getting out of danger. On small maps, however, you will often find opponents coming up on your sides or behind you, or simply throwing a grenade at your feet, largely rendering the Hardlight Shield useless. Regeneration field is something that I would also only use on big maps, as on small maps, gameplay is too quick to actually use it effectively, as there is a deploy time and a shield recharge time, and you will find yourself getting killed before you can actually deploy it. Hologram is useful on both small and big maps, however, I'd recommend it more on big maps, as on small maps, you will fool less people, and it's just generally not as useful as something like Promethean Vision. The jetpack is more useful on small maps, as you can get people who are hiding behind obstacles by shooting up into the air. On big maps, if you use jetpack, you will find yourself getting team shot, as you are often the center of attention when you launch up into the air. Active camouflage is a lot more useful on big maps than it is small maps. On small maps, the fact that you are given away on radar will often lead to your demise. However, on big maps, the fact that you can usually use your range to your advantage and go invis, it is actually quite functional. So I would avoid using it on small maps, and I would definitely incorporate it onto your big map strategy if you are somebody who likes to remain stealthy. Auto Sentry is completely worthless. Don't use it on other bigger small maps. Again, complete waste of time and Spartan points. Now, moving on to tactical package. Grenadier is my staple on small maps. Being able to carry 3 grenades is extremely useful. And if you are someone who likes to stick vehicles on bigger maps, can also be used in that setting. However, I would recommend Grenadier for small maps and frag grenades. Mobility is completely worthless on small maps, in my opinion, yet very useful on big maps, as you can sprint for power weapons and sprint out of danger for longer periods of time. Shielding is very useful on small maps and somewhat useful on big maps. I use it occasionally for my small map loadout, and I don't use it for my big map loadout. So it's something that you need to find if it works for you. It's definitely viable on small maps. Resupply is useful on small maps, not so much on big maps. I don't really use it because I just prefer the Grenadier perk, where I will spawn with more grenades rather than picking up more grenades. I would recommend against it. Firepower is very useful on both small and big maps. You can use assault rifles or secondary to be lethal at mid and short range for small maps, and you can use the combination of 2 long-range weapons, such as the DMR and the beam rifle, to be an unstoppable threat on larger maps. AA efficiency, as I'm not a huge armor ability person, I haven't really tested it out, but I feel like it is one of the weaker options, as there are a lot more potent options in the tactical package section. Now, finally, support upgrades. Explosives is also very useful on small maps in tandem with the extra grenade perk. Having both increased grenade damage and decreased explosive damage is very useful, especially on small maps where you're going to be getting hit by grenades often. Ammo is quite useful on big maps, as you will often find yourself using power weapons such as the sniper rifle. Having an extra clip comes in handy and will let you get more kills than normal. On smaller maps, however, since you're going to be dying more, probably you're not going to be running out of ammo as much, so I'd recommend against it. Definitely use it for big maps though. Dexterity is the opposite. I would recommend using it on small maps, not so much as big maps. Small maps, you're going to have less time and you're going to be under pressure more often, so having a quick reload speed and a quick weapon change is very useful. But on big maps, you usually have a little bit more space and time to move and maneuver. It's not going to be as useful. Sensor, I don't like it on either big or small. Obviously, it's useless on big because engagements are done outside of the motion sensor range. And on small, since you're probably going to be using Promethean Vision or something similar, it's not really useful. Ordnance priority, I actually use this on one of my big team kits, but it's more for fun. In terms of getting kills, it's obviously useless, and there's something that is much more effective in terms of explosive or ammo, which will let you get ordnance fast anyways. So I feel like this is a wasted perk. However, if you like getting ordnance like I do, and you want to have a little bit of fun, then I would recommend checking it out. Awareness, again, I don't find it that useful. Small maps, you're not going to be sniping that much, and if you are, you'll usually be scoped out anyways. And on big maps, usually you're not going to have to worry about anybody being in your close proximity anyways. So in sum, explosives is a very viable option on small maps, and I recommend using ammo on big maps. That's usually my staple. So that pretty much covers everything, guys. I'm very quickly going to go into my control settings. This is very subjective, so I use bumper jumper. However, find what works best for you. If you're somebody who uses the jetpack or something to that effect, you're definitely not going to want to take your thumb off the right thumbstick, so use something that lets you use your armor ability while keeping your right thumb on the controls. I, however, normally only use something like Promethean Vision, so I can play bumper jumper where my jump's on my left bumper, and therefore I can aim while I'm in midair. There are a lot of viable options in here. Just find one that works well for you and works well for your playstyle. For sensitivity, you want something that will work well at close range and at long range. If your sensitivity is too low, you won't be able to make fine adjustments when somebody's strafing or jumping at very close range. While you'll be very effective at long range, you'll get dominated in close range battle. Inverse is also true. If your sensitivity is 10, you won't be able to make minute adjustments at long range, and you'll find yourself losing most of those battles. So I usually like to play something in between, which lets me compete at close range, but also long range. Balance is always better, guys. Anyways, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope that helped you out. Episode 2 is going to be coming out very shortly. I'm going to be going over aiming, killing, and just general gameplay tips in-game, so it should definitely be a lot more fun than this one. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. I'm going to be sure to respond to any questions, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't to. Stay tuned for episode 2.